helping people to understand that there's this other part. When you're sick and your home is making you sick, mold remediation is not enough. You also need to get back into these rituals of cleaning, of maintenance. And when your home has gotten to a place of toxicity, you have to detox the home.
You are listening to The Dr. Haley Show, the podcast dedicated to helping you optimize your health. Each episode, there will be an interview or a message to help you discover better health. We will be featuring health radicals on the show to bring new ideas to the table, as well as doubling down on key fundamentals to support you living your best life. Your host is no other than the founder of Haley Nutrition, Dr. Michael Haley.
This is the Dr. Haley Show podcast. I'm Dr. Michael Haley, show host, and we've got a great show today. Today's guest is Seth Jones, the CEO of Hygia Living Corp and the visionary behind Superstratum, the first patent-pending process designed to remove mycotoxins from homes. With a background as an international DJ and songwriter, Seth's journey took a dramatic turn after a personal encounter with building-related illness, BRI. Now he's dedicated to healing the estimated 66 million U.S. homes that contribute to toxic conditions affecting 170 million people. Seth's mission is clear: to elevate our health by purifying the environments we live in. Man, welcome to the show. Seth, is it okay if I start up with reading something that was written like over 3,000 years ago?
Please.
I know that things have changed since this was written, and it'd be interesting to hear from the expert. But about 3,500 years ago in the book of Leviticus, and this is from the New International Version, the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "When you enter the land of Canaan, which I am giving you as your possession, and I put a spreading mold in a house in that land, the owner of the house must go and tell the priest, I have seen something that looks like a defiling mold in my house. The priest is to order the house to be emptied before he goes in to examine the mold, so that nothing in the house will be pronounced unclean. After this, the priest is to go in and inspect the house. He is to examine the mold on the walls. If it has a greenish or reddish depressions that appear to be deeper than the surface of the wall, the priest shall go out the doorway of the house and close it up for 7 days. On the seventh day, the priest shall return to inspect the house. If the mold has spread on the walls, he is to order that the contaminated stones be torn out and thrown into an unclean place outside the town. He must have all the inside walls of the house scraped, and the material that is scraped off dumped into an unclean place outside the town. Then they are to take other stones to replace these and take new clay and plaster the house. If the defiling mold reappears in the house after the stones have been torn out and the house scraped and plastered, the priest is to go and examine it. And if the mold has spread in the house, it is a persistent defiling mold. The house is unclean. It must be torn down, its stones, timbers, all the plaster, and taken out of the town to an unclean place." You know, Seth, I'm guessing at that time, that was probably a pretty good plan. It's like, we did what we could to clean it. This house is going to make you sick. This is bad. They knew, but way back then, this is bad. Tear the house down. Just get rid of it. Start over.
Yep. Yeah. And I love that you've started the show with that. And they also, I think one thing that's often, the people who are aware of that, and I love that you're aware of that, sometimes overlook the fact that it's the priest who is doing this work, right? It's not a tradesman in the town, but that this idea of keeping the home pure, the environment pure, was actually ritualized and written into the religious law. And that's common across religions, right? That there are these rituals around cleaning and how the environment has to be maintained because they understood the connection between health and the spiritual health and the relationship to God, and the way that things needed to happen. So there's actually so much wisdom in that in that passage. And you're right, a lot of things have changed, but actually a lot of things haven't changed. And it's funny when you go back and you hear that, knowing everything that we know now, we have completely different types of buildings now. So it's a whole different conversation. But the philosophy hasn't really changed. And one of the major, debates within mold remediation, or that has been, are people who use chemicals or who fog to try and kill mold, and people who scrape mold and physically remove that mold. And it's specifically indicated in that passage that it's to be scraped and removed. And if they can't get the mold out, then you have to, destroy the house. So even those principles are still present today in how we handle mold remediation. And I'm sure, as we'll get into, the problem goes much, 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 much further today than it did then, because the dwellings of those times were built with certain materials that were very natural. They had obviously a lot of fresh air. There was no central AC. And now we have airtight buildings and central AC, and crawl spaces and all of these things. And those same molds grow, but when they grow in these environments, now they release mycotoxins. And it's really those chemical toxins in that environment that is causing this. And that is much difficult to heal from on a health side. And when you're dealing with the building, it's much more difficult to decontaminate, a home that is airtight and that has these mycotoxins in it from the mold.
Yeah, yeah. Now, what happened to you? How was your health affected?
Yeah, well, it's a funny story. I don't know who wrote my bio. It makes me sound fun. And I guess I had a fun time in my career in music, but I was actually living in Los Angeles, and I was a DJ, and I was touring and, living a whole different life. And I lived in Los Angeles, and I lived on a property that had kind of an apartment. It was a little bit bigger property, and there were some different people who lived on that property. And I had made a transition into starting this company, actually, and was working on the mold problem, and not realizing at the time that my business partner, this was the startup house. So I had a business partner there, and there were a couple other people who lived on the property. This home would leak when it would rain, and there was mold growing in the home that I didn't know of, and it became very toxic. And everyone who lived in that house got extremely sick. I got the least sick probably of everyone that lived there. I had anxiety and some different things that just kind of appeared and developed. But there were cases of like extreme gut issues. One, and it was during COVID too, so you had compounded vaccines and viruses and things. But in that home, one girl like lost her appendix. Another girl went to rehab from all the drinking because she was so depressed. A couple of guys, for 2 years with different doctors and trying to figure out what was wrong. And most impactfully, my partner, I was in a relationship at the time, and she had a prior exposure when she was young. And I wasn't, even as I was entering the space, I didn't really understand the impact. I didn't understand. And unfortunately, she got extremely ill, both physically and mentally, and became convinced, paranoid that I was going to kill her, and she ran away. And, it was just this extremely traumatic thing that no one could explain and no one really understood. And it wasn't until a couple of years later, after a couple of years of research building this company, where in retrospect, I kind of looked back at everything that had happened. And by that point, there had been testing that we had been working with that developed a way to test for these toxins, because there was no way to even know if you had mycotoxins in your home. And I went back to that house and knocked on the door with one of these new testing devices. And I was like, hey, will you let me come inside? And, he was in the house. And sure enough, there were trichothecenes, and I've countless and countless stories now. Now I understand this. Now we're getting more data. Now we're starting to understand. But, that was for me really the genesis that shifted my whole career 15 years as a musician,
Yeah.
into chemicals.
That's fascinating. I'm interested in knowing on how this mycotoxin detection works. Is the music chapter closed, or you still dabble, or still?
Yeah, I still dabble. I did it for so long, and we had a great time. I traveled the world and had a lot of cool experiences, and obviously met a lot of really fun people. And then this company started, and all of this happened, and this really has become the life mission and the
Yeah.
passion, and it's the impact that we have every day. It fills me with so much significance that, being on stage, it's fun, and I do it every once in a while when they call me, but music has now become the hobby, and this has really, become the thing that's taken over my passion.
We're similar in that. I love music, and for me, it's just playing drums in the church.
Yeah.
And I love playing the drums. Yes, I have a history as a DJ and worked in clubs and stuff like that. And that was fun. And I also did private events. That was fun. Playing the drums, that's my passion. But I'm not really changing any lives by playing the drums. It's fun, but it's not life changing for anyone.
Yeah, I felt the same way. It was fun. I said, millions and millions and millions of people heard my music and saw me, and they had a good time. But the stories and the people that we help, and frankly, the lives that we save, and the magnitude of the impact,
Yeah.
of a positive, doing something positive in this way, because it's so big. I mean, when you look at the scale of this problem, and when you begin to understand how this is contributing to the chronic health epidemic, it's an exciting thing to do.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard people say to you, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here today. No doubt.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's powerful.
You enjoying the show thus far? One of the many health secrets that we have covered on the show is all around aloe vera, specifically drinking raw aloe vera. Our aloe vera has helped our customers effectively heal their gut, increase their intestine health, lower inflammation in the body, eliminate and/or decrease acid reflux, have glowing skin and hair, and so much more. Now, as a frequent member of our audience, you will be exposed to exclusive specials and coupon codes for the awesome products manufactured by Haley Nutrition. That's right, for simply being awesome and tuning in. You can get a mini discount to help you optimize and better your health. To see how we can help and support you on your health journey, tune into the episodes and listen for coupon codes that you can use at www.haleynutrition.com before you make your orders of raw aloe vera. Once again, it's www.haleynutrition.com. Now, back to the show.
It's one of those weird illnesses, it's the building related illness. It's hard to diagnose, it's hard to treat. It's weird because some people don't get sick and other people get tremendously sick, and there's everything in between. Some people have immune systems that just go berserk, and they have all the gut problems and allergy responses and body pains and chronic fatigue, and you start getting confused with these other diagnoses that are so difficult to treat. Prevention is certainly better than treating, but what are you seeing in the people that need help? How many of them are getting better, and how many are continuing to suffer for the rest of their lives?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, to go back to the first part of your question, what makes it so difficult to understand and to diagnose, and I think it's because it's what building related illness is not another disease, right? It's actually a different paradigm of illness. And, we, in kind of the germ theory that we're all trained in, how we understand catching a cold, right? Catching a virus, our body processes that and fights it off, and we get better. Chronic illness and building related illness is not like that. It can be related to that, but what this is toxicity. It's an accumulation of toxicity and the compounding and complex effects of that toxicity in the body over time. And everyone is different, right? And this is the obviously reflected in our genetics, and this is becoming much more popular now. We're beginning to understand this, and I like to explain to people, when we think about genetics, we think that, oh, it's just this, it's a roll of the dice, right? I have this mutation or this gene, and so that means that I have this chance now of getting this thing that this study says that there's this chance. And that's not how it works, right? Our genetics are what create the environment of our body, which makes us susceptible. Right? It's about our susceptibility in that environment. You can actually have a lower chance of developing all of those things if you understand that susceptibility and you manage your lifestyle and your health in that way. And so when, with building related illness, number one, most people, they can be dying and they won't believe that they have it. So that's the first problem, is that it just, people miss it. And that obviously is an impediment to getting better, because over and over and over, there have been clients and friends and family members that I've had conversations with over years as they've been seeking traditional solutions and pharmaceuticals and those types of things. And it was a very simple issue in their building, right? They had mold or their HVAC wasn't clean. That obviously eliminates someone's chances of getting better. The people who realize it, who go, okay, this is a problem in my home, I've got mold, I believe it, whatever it is, let me go try and get better. It's still pretty low, because it's so individualized, it's so difficult. But number one, because most people never address their environment correctly. And so even the people who get on the right track, who begin to do the right things, they're fighting an uphill battle that they're never going to win because they can't control that environment. And I think the final piece of this that I have seen as a generality is that the people who begin to get better, most of them get to 80 to 85%. They get to that point, and it's really the cellular health issue, the cellular response that they never quite recover from, and that they're so susceptible to re-exposures. And so then they kind of enter into this post healing phase, that limerence of, okay, well, I'm not sick like I was, but if I go to an Airbnb or the wrong hotel room now for 2 weeks, and that creates a psychological effect. So, what is true healing? How many people actually heal? I don't know, but I do know that it is very, very difficult.
Yeah, I feel like whether it's cancer or building related illness, number one is get rid of the cause. And a percentage of people will get better just by getting rid of the cause. That is the most important part of the equation. It'd be like if you had lung cancer. Oh, well, I'm going to start eating, green vegetables and drinking juice smoothies. Well, did you quit smoking? Number one, get rid of the cause. And obviously with building related illness, get rid of the cause. Yeah, I'm one of those people where I detoxify very quickly. And, you can have two people in the same house. One of them is always testing high for heavy metals, and they can do all kinds of detoxes and they still test high for heavy metals. You can't get rid of it because your detoxification system just isn't working as good as it should. Other people, they completely detoxify. I happen to be one of those lucky people. But that doesn't mean I'm okay in a home full of mold and mildew. I will definitely feel it in my eyes and like a burning sensation in my nasal passage, and something that says, get out, get away from this. If I'm lucky, I'll feel it. You don't always feel it. How are you actually testing for the mycotoxins?
Yeah. So it's good timing, actually. We just relaunched our mold and mycotoxin detection kit. So traditional environmental testing and mold testing, that's looking for a mold spore or the DNA of mold. It can tell you the species of the mold that's growing. But mycotoxins are the chemical byproduct of mold. They're the defense mechanism that the mold creates to fight bacteria and other molds. And those are chemicals that are separate from the mold. The mold test doesn't detect what weapons the mold is using, right? Whether or not the mold was using bioweapons as it was spreading throughout your home. Now, within the last 2 or 3 years, there have been some testing methods that have come on the market that are PCR based tests, but those are really meant for like DNA. They're meant for microbial. On the molecular side, it is really mass spectrometry that does the most accurate testing of mycotoxins. So we have partnered with a laboratory and have brought to the consumer market now an at-home mass spectrometry test that you can do. And this has a mold tape and a mycotoxin swab, and it's designed to be affordable. It's, I think, about $400 or even less than that. And you take the mold tape and you can put it directly onto mold. So like if there's something growing and you want to know, is it mold or what type of mold, is it? And you want to know, is that mold creating a mycotoxin? Then you would take the mold from the mold tape and then you would just swab that mold and get a good sample, and you send it off to our lab. And we now detect over 40 different types of mycotoxins. So we can tell you with, in to the parts per billion, what is there. And that's very unique. It's the largest panel. So you can also do it. And we recommend people to do this because this is a little bit more important than the specific testing, but what's going on in your whole house. So we tell people to take that swab and you can walk around to each room and you swab the tops of the door jambs because you want to see what's in the dust. The dust is really where those toxins and spores are, and that gets airborne and we breathe them in and they go straight into the bloodstream. So you'll take a sample throughout the whole home, and then we can determine, are there any mycotoxins throughout the home, and what mycotoxins are there. And then you can take the mold sample of the dust as well to see, are there any mold spores that might relate to these toxins. So that is available now, and we're in the process of actually developing an air test. So this would be something that basically does all of that, but is sampling the air so we can get an idea of what the occupant's breathing.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. That'll be great when that's available.
Yep.
As you're saying these things, it's reminding me of certain illnesses like pertussis, as an example. It's this bacterial infection. And initially, when someone is sick, they might not even have the symptoms. And then when the symptoms are developing, it's actually from the toxins from the bacteria.
Yeah, the endotoxins is.
Yeah, and the bacteria could be completely dead within a few days, but those toxins over the next 4 to 6 weeks that people are, coughing and hacking and slowly decreasing as their body's getting rid of the toxins. But the toxins are still there for a long, long time.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I haven't heard that, but that's a great thought because we try and tell people that too, that, okay, a mold remediator can come into that house and can kill the mold successfully, but those toxins are still going to remain, and your body has, has processes to remove those toxins. Your home doesn't have that. So those toxins will stay in that home. And for a subset of people, they're extremely, extremely sensitive to it.
Are you involved in getting rid of the mold and getting rid of the toxins in the house?
We do. So we have an EPA registered mold and biofilm killer. It's called Pure One. But really what Superstratum has focused on is the small particle cleaning, the mycotoxin cleaning, the detoxification of the chemicals within the building. Mold remediation, we work alongside of, right? If you have mold in your home, just like in the Bible, you got to get it out. You want to remove the source. And that's what mold remediation does. But one of the things we like to say is you wouldn't have your car mechanic detail your car, right? Those are two processes. You need a mechanic. He's ripping stuff out and there's oil. That's your mold remediation. But oftentimes, especially for people who are sensitive, that mold remediator will make the home more toxic after he's done his job. And there was not a solution for that. And that was what really left people in a difficult place when, okay, we got the mold out, but all of those spores, all of those toxins now are spread throughout the home. we didn't think about the home like that holistically. So Superstratum, our chemistry, we were the first chemistry to be able to demonstrate that we could destroy the molecular compound of the mycotoxin. And that's what our ag-hocl does. So in our 3-phase whole home system, this is a whole home detoxification that will clean, and we gas with chlorine dioxide gas, the building envelope. So this is really focused on destroying those mycotoxins, VOCs, all of the chemicals and things. And then we do have some mold products if people are spot cleaning mold or they're doing it themselves. But our goal was to create products that people could use themselves, to fit in those gaps, so that even if they couldn't, fix the source, or they had an affordable solution that they could do to make their environment a little bit better.
I hope you're enjoying the podcast. If you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe. During the month of June 2025, get $10 off your purchase of $100 or more at HaleyNutrition.com. The coupon code is June 2025. That's JUNE 2025. You can use this coupon with on sale and already discounted bundled items. Enjoy the rest of the show. All right, I'm just thinking out loud on this because it almost sounded like getting rid of termites, where you tent the house and gas the place. Is it dangerous? Is it safe? How does it work?
Yeah, great question. So the whole home system is a 3-phase process. The first phase is the cleaning phase. We use a product called our building cleaner. It's a special type of chemical called hypochlorous acid. Hypochlorous acid is actually generated in the human body. You may be familiar with it. In chemical manufacturing, when you're manufacturing hypochlorous acid, you can do it a number of different ways. Our product is unique. It's called an ag-hocl. It's a pH neutral solution that essentially has a very high oxidation power, but it's extremely safe. For the biohackers, there's a whole rabbit hole on what you can do with HOCl, and I use it for a lot of different things. But within our cleaning protocol, we walk into the building, we fog it onto all the surfaces. That will destroy most mycotoxins on contact. So we let that fog dry, and then we wipe down all the surfaces in the home. And people can do this at home with our wipes or with paper towels. After that micro clean, then it comes to the second phase, and that second phase is the gas phase. So this is our product that's called our Superstratum Deodor Balm. It's a little dry sponge that when you add water to it, it generates chlorine dioxide gas. Now, chlorine dioxide gas, you're thinking of termites, tinting buildings. Chlorine dioxide was brought in to clear out the anthrax during the anthrax attacks, and that's really what they had to do. You had big generators, you had to tint buildings, and that's what it is. The most oxidative chemical. It's extremely effective, but wasn't very economical. It was difficult to deliver. This patented product that we have is a precise delivery system of controlled amounts of it. So you can put one in each room depending on the size of the room, and we can accurately fill up a home for just the right amount of time. You do that overnight, and that chlorine dioxide penetrates into all the areas of the home that you can't see. It'll destroy the VOCs, all the mycotoxins. So it's a part of this multi-phase process. And then the third phase, we come back in the morning, you open the house up, you let it air out, get that gas out. Now the gas is toxic when it's in the gas form. You have to wear a mask, when you go back in the house to air it out. But once it airs out, it breaks down to a salt. Both of these chemistries are just salts. So it doesn't leave any toxic chemicals in the environment once it's done its job. And then the third phase involves a proprietary product that we have, which really started our company. It's a water-resistant and abrasion-resistant, mold-resistant coating. So it's invisible. You can spray it on outside your house. You can spray it on your deck. But inside of a home, on the wood or the drywall, it can last for 20 years. Water-resistant, it can go through hundreds of wet-dry cycles. No mold will grow on it. And so that's an extremely powerful, tool. There's nothing else on the market like that can resist mold, in those extreme moisture environments. So we put those in all the places where moisture may reaccumulate and you might have a problem. So that's the whole process.
All right. And I'm getting a lot of questions coming in my
Yeah.
head as as you're saying these things. The fogging stuff, and as we're does anyone do it, or is it a specialist that's trained in it specifically has to come do this to your home?
No, anyone can do it. We've designed it to be do it yourself. In fact, you can get on our website and we have an order wizard, and you can create a profile with your home and enter in all of the rooms of your home and your ceiling heights. And that'll actually create a custom order of all the products for all these steps. You get instructions for how to do it. We've got a super helpful staff, so videos on how to do each step. So we've tried to make that as easy as possible. But for a lot of people, they've got very big homes, or they're elderly or they're very sick in a lot of cases.
Mhm.
So we also have a professional cleaning service as well. We do operate around the country, primarily in the Tennessee, kind of Carolina areas. And then we have a lot of professional companies around the country who utilize our products in what they do. So they're trained in our products. They can do this. And so oftentimes we'll help customers around the country, get connected with the right professional.
Okay, so if they contact you, you would say in such and such a part of Florida or North Carolina, call this particular person. They know how to do it.
Yeah. And a lot of people who are in the middle, okay, they're doing remediation. They say, well, I want you to use, we'll talk to their remediator and we can get them trained really easily and get them set up. Anybody who, needs anything like that, they can just go to our website and they'll be connected to the right person.
Okay. The other question that was popping up in my head as you were talking about something that'll make a surface that it cannot grow mold. Are there, I'm building a house. Are there certain building materials that are conducive to mold that I should avoid? What are some of the things to avoid if I'm purchasing a home? What
Yeah.
are the structures that you want and the materials you want? What should I avoid?
Yes. Well, mold-free building is a whole, rabbit hole of information and different things. But one of the things that we do with our coating, so our Superstratum Endurance coating is the product. I don't think I mentioned the name of it. That's the third phase. That is a product that a lot of builders use when they're building homes. So what begins mold growth in homes many times is before the home's even built. Those trusses come to the job site, they sit in the mud, they're inoculated. Buildings just get rained on before they go under dry. So you've got moisture, you've got mold, oftentimes growing on the studs and the trusses before the house is even closed up. And builders don't do anything, and architects don't do anything about that. But that's mold that's waiting to grow when future moisture enters that, or when that moisture that's in that wood leaks out over the next 6 months of your brand new home. So one of the things that you can do if you're in that stage is take our endurance coating and you spray all the studs and all the trusses, and in the plumbing drops, where those would be. And that will last for, we say 10 years, but 20 plus years, back behind the wall in a coating. And to give you an example, even we had a remediator who a couple years ago did a job, opened up the wall, there was a leak, there was mold growing. They remediated the mold and they thought that they fixed the leak. Well, they sprayed the coating in that area that they had just cleaned all the mold off, to protect it in the future. But they didn't realize they didn't fix the leak. So 2 more years went by and it leaked behind that wall until the homeowner discovered it and they called the company back. Well, when they opened it up again, mold had grown everywhere, right? But where that coating was, and it had
No
stopped,
way.
even though for 2 years that water had been leaking. So, that is the protection that coating has. And it's very easy and very economical to apply once you're in that stage.
Yeah.
Now, most of our business is focused on fixing problems, but like you said at the beginning of this, prevention is the best. And so that's what I would recommend is, to have your contractor apply this to those trusses when they get to the job site, to just keep them protected. And then when the house and the studs go up and the drywall, then you can just spray everything so that you got coverage there.
I'm also thinking of all of the flooring that people put in where, it's like a fake wood
Yeah,
kind of thing, and maybe there's a cushion underneath it. And maybe
yeah.
you're in a condo and the people above you have a leak and it ends up underneath your floor. Is that same stuff gonna, if you put it underneath the floor before you lay the floor, gonna protect it?
Yep, it's great for subfloor. Yep, you can put it. You can put it everywhere. It's actually great to use outside too. If you've got a slippery sidewalk or that shady side of the house that grows algae, you just get it clean and you spray a real light coat and let it dry, and it'll last for about 2 years
Okay.
on the exterior.
Now, what's the technology? Because if it kills mold, is it going to kill bugs? Is it safe?
Yeah, so it doesn't kill mold. It's not a mold killer or a mold cleaner. It's a mold resistant coating. So you would want to clean that surface first. And we have cleaners. There's other cleaners you can
Gotcha.
use. You can use soap and water, right? But you want to start with a clean surface, and then you spray it. The technology. It's a funny story how it started. There was a very very smart R&D chemist who had worked at Sherwin-Williams for many, many years. And he had a very unique chemistry knowledge. He had worked in like craft paints for children. And so he like very non-toxic materials, but he was also working kind of the antimicrobial side. And he retired. And when he retired, he was living in his house up in the mountains, and he started getting algae growing on his vinyl siding. So he had these two very different kind of parts of chemistry that he brought together into this novel technology. And there's no other product that has this type of performance. And it's because what he did is he found a very unique polymer matrix that's very, very safe, and preservatives that aren't really like when you're in mold remediation and disinfectant, when you're trying to kill mold, you have to use powerful chemicals to do that. But in preservatives, things that you put into shampoos or inside caulks and sealants, these aren't meant to kill mold. They're just meant to resist the growth of mold, right? While it's in that can. So he took these kinds of components and put them into a coating so that those preservatives protect that coating. But the coating is so light and safe that you never know it's there. It's invisible. So it's a coating, but you can spray it onto your clothing, and it won't change, the feel or the fabric of your clothing, but it holds those preservatives so that any mold spore or anything that lands on that coating, it can't grow. And, I'm not a chemist, but the way the chemistry works is so powerful that it can give you many, many years. That coating will stay there, invisible, and resist that mold.
Very, very interesting. Good stuff. Where should people go to find out more?
Sure, they can go to superstratumlabs.com. We have a whole shopping experience with all of our products and all the things that you would need, cleaners and all different types of things. We've got a knowledge section they can read for the science, people who want to understand our technology. We've got a white paper, talks a lot about the third-party research that was done on our products and how we demonstrated all of this. And then if, a lot of people are just, I don't know what to do. I need help. I'm in the middle of a job. What do I need? They can go straight to the website there. We've got chat bots, but any way to contact us, our team is helpful. We'll reach out to you and we can help you figure out what you need.
That's awesome. Is there anything that you wish I had asked that I'm leaving out? I didn't know where we were going with this. I'm thinking it's more mold remediation, and I didn't realize that this industry that you're in even existed within mold remediation and health. And
Yeah. Well, we're new. We're building it, and I think that that's a great question. And I can't think of anything because for us, it's really just about getting the word out. Most people don't know this. And every day we're helping people who they're like, I've been looking for this. We've been looking for this. We've had this problem. Nothing else is solving it. So it's really just helping people to understand that there's this other part when you're sick and your home is making you sick. Mold remediation is not enough. You need good mold remediation, but you also need to get back into these rituals of cleaning, of maintenance. And when your home has gotten to a place of toxicity, you have to detox the home.
Yeah. If people have questions beyond what we talked about here, do you got a contact form on the website or something? Can they reach you?
Contact on the website, and we're very active on Instagram, especially too. Lots of information and videos there. People can follow us at superstratum.co.
Awesome. Well, Seth, thank you so much. I learned a lot. This was really cool.
I hope you enjoyed that episode today on The Dr. Haley Show. Make sure to hit subscribe on whichever platform you are listening to this. If this episode made you think of someone, go ahead, take a screenshot, and share this exact episode with them. You can catch the show notes for this episode on www.drhaley.com. If you want to geek out with Dr. Michael Haley on other radical health topics, be sure to check out his YouTube channel, where he posts exclusive video content. All the details are at www.drhaley.com, and we can't wait to hang out with you on the next episode.